Thank you for tuning in to Radicards.com. I'm your host, Patrick Greeno, and today I have Tanner Jones online with me today. Hey, Tanner, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing well, thank you. Tanner just, surprisingly, kind of cold turkey in a way, left the hobby recently, and so I wanted to get him on a conversation just to share. We can talk about it a little bit, and I have a few questions to run by, if you don't mind there, Mr. Tanner.
Absolutely. Ask away.
Awesome. So, Tanner, thanks for taking this opportunity to talk with me about your recent decision to stop collecting and sell. I'm sure others are curious to learn more. I know that you've kind of written a long description, and you have this video talking about it as well. And I know that that was a great run through of everything. I really enjoyed reading that article. So thanks for sharing that.
Sure. Thank you.
Of course. Over the past 3 years, you've been ardently pursuing Jose Canseco cards. In that span of time, you've met the man himself, been on the cover of Becca publication, of which was reproduced at a national convention mini cover promo, and have made your legacy across the niche market of card collecting. I've always appreciated the way you've gone about marketing your pursuit of getting rare Jose Canseco cards with the graphics and all the gifts. And I really liked the Homer Simpson headshot that you made for yourself with you winking and smiling. I always thought that was really cool. So rad.
I thought you'd like that.
I love it. So cool. Question. In all that time, did you ever think you'd ever decide to stop and sell?
I think it came up a few times in my mind, and I'm the type of person that I'm never really lifelong into anything of my passions. I've been into cars and racing a lot in the past as well, and at the drop of a hat, I would just sell everything as well. Nothing really stuck quite like collecting baseball cards, though. I call it cardboard crack, and I'm not the person that made up that term, but my gosh, that's right. I mean, it's so addicting. So I don't think I really saw myself as not collecting anymore. I did think about it, but it's just, and there's a friend of mine that actually told me, AJ, you know AJ, Aaron. Sure. He told me at some point, he goes, Tanner, you have just hit the point of no return. You can't go back, right? And I said, well, you don't know me that well, obviously, then, because I think I can. And so, well, here I am.
Yeah. I know AJ's a big Canseco collector too. So he's and there's a group of you guys that are out there online. In 2010, I sold a really big Jose Canseco collection. I sold to a bunch of you guys. I'm not sure how many of you guys are still in that market. But it was great to get to know some of the Jose Canseco collectors back then, and then getting to know you. Kind of wish you were in the market back then because of the stuff that I had sold. I think you would have appreciated a lot of it.
Right? Yeah, me too.
So, good stuff. Of all the great times you've had over the past few years, what are one or two significant experiences that had a positive impact on you both personally and professionally?
Probably the one that comes to mind is a very wild story, and I've tried to articulate this on some of my writings, and so I'm not sure if I'll be able to do that good of a job on camera here, but I'm going to try anyways. And I think you probably remember the 1998 Pinnacle certified prototypes. You remember those?
Oh, yeah. Last year, they had a bunch of them surfaced.
Yeah, so the way that I started out knowing about those is Aaron actually had a 1998 Pinnacle certified red in his collection.
Right.
And I got to tell you, when I saw that, for the first time, I was just, my jaw dropped. I mean, I was so oh my gosh, it's the most beautiful thing ever. And I knew I wasn't going to get it because it was rumored possibly to be a 1 of 1. Mm-hmm. So fast forward maybe 3 years or something like that. I was about to get off of work on Friday, and I'm checking eBay once more before I head out, so that way I can check eBay while I'm going downstairs. But I'm at my desk at this point. I hit eBay, and there it is. Never seen one before, and my heart just sunk. I was like, okay, I got to do whatever it takes to get this card in my collection. I've loved it forever. And I normally keep cards close to my chest, so to speak, when it comes to cards I'm looking for, not necessarily the ones that I have, because you know me, I always put them up on Twitter and the forums. Hey, everybody, look what I got. But before that, I'm, zip my lip and I'm not going to say nothing.
Right.
But with this card, because I knew that Aaron had it, I said, well, I'm going to reach out to him and say, hey, take a look at this. And I can't wait to get it. I'm going to get him. I'm going to be the winner. He goes, well, I'm going for it too. I go, why are you going for this? You knucklehead, you already have it. And he goes, nope, I don't. This is the mirror version. And I go, oh, no. So I'm going to have to do battle with this guy to get this card that I love. And so after a while, I kept checking eBay over and over and over again just to see where the price was. Is it going to be, starts at 99 cents. Where's it going to end up at? Is it going to end up at $100 or is it going to end up at $1,000? I said, no. Well, Sunday, I believe it was, if I remember correctly, I checked and it was gone. Like it was pulled. And so the guy apparently had done a deal for it with somebody else. And so I was like, oh my gosh. And so I tried to reach out to this guy and I had no luck whatsoever. So I was thinking, okay, I know this guy's in Dallas. Who do I know in Dallas? Because Dallas is about 4 hours away from here. Mm-hmm. Like it's almost like to a lot of people, especially folks up north, like if you do 4 hours away, that could likely be a different state, but here we're still in Texas,
Right.
And so I was like, well, I do remember this one guy that had bought several 100,000 cards from me in the past. He had been a year or two since he'd been over here. But I said, well, I'm going to reach out to him, see if he remembers me. Not sure if I remember his name. I don't know. So I contacted him and I said, hey, Bill, I'm not sure if you remember me or not, but my name is Tanner. You've come over to my house to buy several 100,000 cards in the past for whatever your purposes were or whatever. There is a seller on eBay that I really want a card of, and it just disappeared. I wanted to talk to him. Can you get him in touch with me? It turns out he knows him. And first of all, that was weird, right? It's like the only one person in Dallas that I know, he knows. So anyways, I ended up talking to the guy and getting in touch, and he's like, no, he was done. That card was gone. So I was bummed. Well, Bill, the guy that I know, he actually contacted me and said, Tanner, what card are you looking for? It doesn't matter. I mean, you don't have it, Bill. But anyways, it's a 98 Pinnacle certified prototype, mirror red. And he goes, you should have checked with me first. I think I have that. And so I don't know about you because you're really big in Frank Thomas cards. I'm sure you have this all the time. Somebody's like, oh, yeah, I've got that 96 mirror gold. And it turns out it's like a 97 mirror gold or something. It happens all the time, right?
Sure.
So I was expecting that. Well, a couple days later, he said, I'll send you some pictures. And I said, okay, thank you. I just have to do my due diligence just in case that one out of a million shot there.
All right.
A couple days later, he sends me a picture. He has the mirror red. He also has the black. He has the regular red that I've been looking at for this whole time. He also has the mirror blue and he has the mirror gold. And my jaw just dropped because, number one, virtually nobody in the hobby at that point even knew most of those existed.
Right.
Like there are like maybe 0.1% people out there had seen him. So I was able to have a part in actually bringing those to market, which is cool because I wrote a spot on Sports Collectors Daily for it, and that was really fun. But ultimately, I was able to get the cards, and all said and done, it's really bizarre how it happened, right? Because had that card not been pulled, I would have never reached out to Bill. Had I never reached out to Bill, I would have never been able to get that rainbow. So it was pretty awesome.
I remember reading the story that you wrote on FCB, and I don't know if that was a repurposed thing or if that was that was like something separate in addition to the stuff you did for Sports Collectors Daily.
I don't recall. I think it was probably about half a year ago. I just incessantly type all day, it seems like, so I don't know what goes where. So
yeah, your articles are thorough, and I've always liked that. They cover a lot of pictures, a lot of multimedia. I thought that was cool. I remember when you had published that, I had seen the listings online of just the stock reds, not the mirror reds. He had a whole bunch of them listed, and I was like, I think Thomas was listed and it was pulled, or Griffey was listed and it was pulled, whatever the case. Certain players were pulled. And then I was like, well, I just want to get one. Maybe I can get like Mo Vaughn or something. And I actually didn't get any of them because, I was like, well, I could put that money toward that, or I could try to find a rare Thomas card for my collection, And I did have an opportunity. I talked with Bill. I had an opportunity to get the epics, the Pinnacle epics that were unreleased. but
Oh, cool.
I didn't go for it because it was just bad timing for me. So whatever, can't get them all. But I appreciated seeing the images of all of them.
Yes.
And just seeing that they existed, that they're documented, known to exist. I think that's really cool for us collectors. There was also one that you might recall seeing called Rare Form. That was, I don't know if Canseco was in the set, but I know Griffey was, Thomas was, and a couple other fellas. But it was one of those insert sets that most of us didn't even know existed. And so that was like a new one for a lot of us to see. And it was, classic 98 Pinnacle design, with like that hollow foil finish, multicolors. Really cool stuff. Yeah, those are. It was like a monumental run, like a month for the hobby, because we were able to see some stuff that we never really thought existed, or we all thought, maybe if it did exist, it would be would they be one of ones? And so, but it turns out there are a couple of copies of a lot of these cards, and so that gives hope to a lot of us that are still chasing, those pieces. So,
yes.
Glad you got in touch with him. Are you and Bill still in touch with one another?
I haven't talked to him in quite a while. I had helped him out a little bit, connecting him with other folks that wanted to buy him, because there are a lot of people, of course, they came over to me like, dude, Tanner, where did you get those? Does he have Mike Mussina there? Does he have Wade Boggs, or does he have Don Mattingly?
Right.
And so, I would hook them up with him. But, a lot of those guys, they don't pull in Canseco prices, if you know what I mean. So whenever I got the cards, I knew what they were worth, and I went big on them. I went bigly on them. And so the problem is I think probably Bill was expecting possibly that was going to be the way it was for the rest of the players, and that's not the case. A lot of times Canseco is going to outsell all the other bigger guys too.
So are you saying that the Canseco price that you paid was, quite ambitious, and he thought that maybe he could get those same numbers for the other players?
I suspect that's possible.
Okay.
And and so I hate to do that to set him up for failure for future sales, and I also hate to do that to my fellow collectors who think that well, wait a second, I'm not going to pay half that for my guy or whatever. But I think ultimately everybody's really pleased though with what they got. So it's they're unicorns, I mean, they don't exist until they do. You know what I mean?
Right. Truly, I know there before that block cards surfaced. I had been aware of certain Pinnacle bankruptcy pieces, and I'd picked up whatever I could find over the years. There was a Team
Sure.
Pinnacle, a Kazar, level, things like that, and so I was like, well, I'm good with whatever we know exists. And then when those surfaced, I was like, gosh, like it's kind of bad timing, because I look at it from economics perspective. If you flood the market with a bunch of rare pieces, the people that want to buy can't buy them all. So they, it's almost best to kind of like leak them out over time.
Yes.
Does that make sense? I mean, you see
Absolutely.
this in business that like if you flood the market with something they're after in any capacity, no one person is going to be able to get all the ones that they want in the batch, because they won't be able to finance it, or it'd be a more unlikely scenario that they'd be able to finance them all at once, if it's unplanned. So I thought it was cool either way that we were able to see them all at once. Like, regardless if I can get any of them or if I can, it's just nice to know that they exist. And
well, yeah, absolutely. It's neat to be able to have pictures. I think that's probably what's going to help me to be able to move forward. I have my cards like sitting here.
Mm-hmm.
I rarely, if ever, go through those cards.
Right.
If I want to look at my collection, I'm on my website.
Right.
I'm doing searches and stuff, and I'm doing these little searching and sorting things, in the search box where I can see the run of a certain rainbow or parallel set or something.
Yeah.
That's what I do. I don't really hardly ever go into the cards themselves.
Yeah, I do the same thing with my museum. My Frank Thomas collection's archived there, so I can go through and enjoy them all digitally anywhere in the world from my phone. And so that's a really nice piece. And like you, I don't go through the actual physical archive, because really I'd like to keep them in untouched as much as I can. Right. So that's another piece, is I respect them enough just to leave them be after I've got them on the website. And the website allows me to share and show people what I'm talking about. And it's really important to have a resource like that, but you and I both know how much time it takes to build a resource like that.
Oh gosh, yes, yes, it takes a long. It's one of the things I'm proudest of in this hobby for my collection, is having built the website and having gotten the cards and a lot of the scans. I was very thankful. There is a super collector previous to me. His name is Paul, and he was a hardcore collector guy. I think he's up in Boston or something like that. He had a fantastic website before me, and I bought a bunch of his cards, so I was able to utilize several of his scans of a lot of the older cards, like 88 tops, 89 score, that kind of thing. So that way I didn't have to scan in all of them.
Yeah.
I scanned in thousands, but that gave me a little bit of a head start, thankfully.
I think I remember Paul. I think I've sold to him back in 2010 a lot. He was one of the bigger buyers, and so is he still in the market? Is he still collecting, or is he out? He sold out.
He's out. Like he was actually selling when I was starting to get into it, and I remember it's so funny. I had no clue what I was doing, and I was like, "Hey, what do you want for your collection?" I mean, I think I probably was offering about $3,000 or something for everything. Had no clue what I was doing. I didn't realize there were some cards, like a handful of 4 or 5 of them, that would have taken care of that $3,000,
right.
quick. So I feel like an idiot now, looking back, thinking about it, but it's okay.
Yeah, you can't beat yourself up over that stuff. It's like the learning curve for the hobby, as you know, is quite wide. And It takes a long time to kind of digest everything because there's countless cards, right? Especially if you're collecting a guy like, that spent 15, 20, years in baseball. Right, and so he's spanned across so many different products that there's a lot to learn and digest and break down and really understand values and things like that. So going back to the website, how long did it take you to start, from your first scan to like, I finally have a website that showcases my whole collection?
Months. It took months and months. And I remember any chance I could get, I would just get like a stack of cards. And I would start scanning. I actually started going from a scanner to actually taking pictures with the Cam Scanner, I believe it is.
Oh, yeah.
It's a phone app, and that has worked awesome. I've loved it. So I've used that a lot because a lot of it for me also, I don't know what kind of scanner this is. It's a Canon something or other. I'm not really impressed with it. But with the Cam Scanner, you're able to get like the shine of the refractor just perfect, and that's huge for me. I mean, I love that sort of thing. If I'm on my website all the time looking at my cards that way, I want to see the shine. I don't want to see some dull flat gold section or whatever. I want to see the refractor area pop. You know what I mean?
I'm right there with you, man. In fact, the scanner I bought specifically because it produces that result through a scan.
Oh, cool.
That was the one reason I was like, I got to get that scanner. And before the scanner, I had a Canon Lide 100, which is a great scanner, but it's flat. So, like, you don't get that refractor shine coming through the scan. And when I first started my site, my blog, Radicards, in 2010, I used that scanner, and it was a great upgrade from my... I had a Canon PowerShot actual camera.
Okay.
This is before I even got the digital smartphone. I didn't get a smartphone until, I think, 2012. And so... I had 2 years where I was using my my Lide, my Canon Lide, and then I upgraded to my Epson in 2012, and it's been great. I get that like refractor shine, that we all love, and it's a really important device to have if you're looking for that effect. I know the Cam Scanner app; it's a great app, it truly is. My buddy turned me on to it in 2000, I would say 10, because he was using it back then, and he uses it a lot. I've never used it to upload content to the site, but if it works just fine. And it gets the feel, the look that you need. Awesome. Now, will you keep everything intact even though you'll be selling things? Like, will the site still be there showcasing the collection you used to have?
So right now in this transition period, I'm actually ghosting things. I'm putting, as I'm selling, I'm actually putting them into another section. When everything's gone, I'll put everything back live again. But it's kind of a good way for me to track what's left of the collection already. The website's been fantastic because I can show people, hey, basically anything on there is for sale. Just go up there and let me know what you want. The problem is, even the biggest of Canseco collectors, it's a very daunting task. There's over 5,000 pieces, and so they're like, where do I start? I mean, this is huge. So it's been a little bit challenging, kind of like what you were talking about earlier on, whenever these pieces were kind of flooding the market. You know what I mean? So that's definitely not something I want to do as far as going on eBay. Hey, let's start 5,000 things off at 99 cents or whatever, because I might get who knows, $200 for $1,000 card or something like that. We don't want that to happen.
That happens, though. I remember in 2010 I was selling that Canseco collection. In the Canseco collection, I had buybacks, the SP buybacks from 2000, and the collection had, I think, like 15 or 20 copies of the same card autographed, and they were all serial numbered to like what was it, like whatever the serial numbering was. But then they were different serial numbers, of course. But I listed them all at the same time, and I realized some of them sold for like, you know, a lot less than the first couple of them sold, like down the line, because people had like, okay, I get it, like. I've noticed, and that's when I learned about like market flooding and like its impact on actual market values, and actually how it can reduce the actual market value for that card temporarily. And if you leave the market for a while and then relist one, you might see a spike again. But there were several instances back then where I was starting to see that and learn that, and remembering how valuable that knowledge is for market positioning. And so I totally get this kind of like, you know, offline, it's all for sale. I'm not going to list it all on eBay, but those of you who know me and are following me, it's available and you can see pictures on my site. I think what you're doing is probably, you know, I think it's maybe the best way you can do that right now.
I hope so. I've got a long way to go. I mean, I've literally been public, so to speak, for about maybe 36 hours or something. So so far things have been really good as far as sales go and everything. I've spent all morning packing up stuff that I sold yesterday, you know, and I've got a whole lot more to do. And it's been good. It's kind of like a bittersweet thing, you know, because I don't like seeing them go, but I also like being able to see them one last time and see them move on into other people's collections too.
I can respect that absolutely. Now, have you had any offers for your whole collection? Has anybody said, hey, what do you want for your entire collection?
There are a couple folks that have asked, but I'll be honest with you, you know, there's no way somebody will be able to do that. You know, I mean, they won't be able to. So I get the sense that they might be the folks that are like I was years ago with Paul. Hey, you take $3,000 for your collection. Saying, no, sorry, you can't do that. So
it's funny. I like that though. It's nice to know you're processing as it comes. It's still relatively new knowledge in the hobby. So hopefully you'll be able to move out all of it in time, you know, and you won't be stuck with stragglers in 20 years, right? Like just, okay, everything else I'm selling as a block, right? Like that's kind of how it went for me when I was selling large collections, is like I'd sell the nice pieces first, and then I'd block everything else into like a mini collection, and it would be sold as a lot.
Yes.
That's a good way to do it.
Yeah, that's actually what I'm planning on doing most likely. So, for instance, I have, you know, I have the largest star collection of Canseco that I've ever seen on there. I mean, there's so many things that Beckett hasn't even listed.
Right.
And so I sold that as like one big lot. I've sold the Broders as one big lot, you know. So I'll probably do things like that. It makes sense to move them like that because I'm not interested in selling, you know, this Broder here for $3 and this Star card here for $2. Oh, that would drive me nuts. I mean, I sold a lot of stuff yesterday, and it's just, you know, a drop in the bucket. There's so much more stuff to go. So
yeah, those star cards are generally part of sets most of the time, like 9-card sets. So you don't want to be piecing those out. You want to sell them as blocks.
Right. Yeah, and especially it made sense to move them all just because of all of the promos as well. So the guy that's going to be getting them, I think he's going to be really happy with it. It's a pretty great run. Was it in a binder, or were they separate cards? Oh yeah, they're separate cards, okay. So they're each by themselves. I don't have anything in binders.
Yeah.
What I might do is I might end up actually having like a base run of Canseco in binders because I love binders. I love being able to just flip through them and everything. I just haven't done that because I don't like number one, trying to put autograph cards and the Gamies cards in binders. Because when you put them upright, you know, have the folder or the pages, they kind of zigzag a little bit if you stand up. So,
yeah.
And plus the other thing is I never had like a finite list of anything. So I couldn't say, okay, this 1991 Topps has the regular, the All-Star, the Tiffany regular, the Tiffany All-Star. That's fine for most people. For me, I wanted the blank back, the blank front, the wrong back, the wrong front, the glow back, the non-glow back, and I wanted everything in between. So, you know, I couldn't see myself saying, well, let's pull out the binder again and, you know, take everything out and hop them over another couple of sections and, you know, do that each time. So the card holders, the top loaders really made most sense for me on my collection.
That is the exact point why I retired the binder thing about 10 years ago. didn't want to touch my cards and shuffle them all about every time a new version I found out and I needed to go in there. This is a big reason why I personally don't do the binder thing. I think the binder thing works really well, however, for set building. Because we're not working on variations and things. And so the binder thing has a very necessary place in the hobby. As a player collector like you and I, it doesn't make a lot of sense in that capacity because we're always shuffling, especially if we're really orderly. You know, those of us that are obsessed with keeping things in order. And then every time you handle a card, even if it is a penny sleeve inside the binder page, you're still risking its condition. And so, and I'm with you. Another reason why that drove me out of the binder thing was that game used cards don't fit in pages, so you have some stuff out of pages. And so it doesn't really make, it's like you have a little bit of binder, a little bit of top loader, and to me that always bothered me.
Yes, same here.
Know? Same here. I'm a all top loader guy. Everything is in top loaders. If it's in like uncirculated, it stays in those cases. I don't ever take anything out of their manufacturing cases, so stay. But anything that's raw goes in top loader, no matter how thick it is. So I've got like super thick top loaders, and I've got the standard 20 points. And I actually really like this shuffling through because you can add stuff in as you go. So moving on with the interview here. If you hadn't collected Jose Canseco cards over the past 3 years, would we still know the Tanner we do today?
So I've kind of changed many times over the past several years. So I was the guy that has bought and sold cards. I've done deals for about 10 million cards in the past decade, which I don't know if you've ever seen even 1 million cards. It is a lot. It is a lot of cardboard. And I've never had more than about 1 million in my garage at once. And when it's in the garage, it is packed out completely. So the way that I started out was I loved writing articles about the journeys I would go on to buy massive collections and sell them, that sort of thing. Then I got into doing custom cards and then, of course, collecting Canseco. So I've kind of done things like, just different chapters of my life. So to answer your question, I'm not really sure what I would have done. And because I've come across some really great things, but nothing for me really stuck as far as wanting to keep, except for Canseco. It just seemed to make sense and it fit for me.
Yeah, I remember you showing off a picture of your garage. I think your son was in the picture, and it was like, to me, I remember there was like a sea of boxes looking at that, and
yes.
Like,
that was heaven. I am convinced that's what heaven looks like right there.
It encompassed the entire garage, and I remember thinking to myself, gosh, that'd be a lot of work, Yes. As I was thinking in my head, it was like how much work would be involved to like process and get it into the hands of other collectors. And, I always thought like how much of that was worth keeping? That was the other question I had. Did you ever process and be like, oh, I kind of want to set that aside, or oh my gosh, this is a big card, I want to keep it. I wonder why the guy put it in there. Did you ever have instances like that?
Yeah, so in any collection, I would almost make it a game whenever I would buy something. So let's say I buy a collection for $1,500. What I would do is I would try to make back my money on the $1,500 from the collection, selling the things that weren't as appealing to me at first. And sometimes I would do a flip-flop. I don't know. It just really depends. But I would keep everything in a spreadsheet, and I would make a list of what would sell. Once I hit the $1,500, it would just be awesome because I say, wow, look at all this stuff I got for free that I would not have generated had I not put the work in. And if that was like a same thing for like stamps or coins or whatever, I wouldn't have enjoyed doing it. It's just because I love cardboard deeply. And so that's why it was so fun for me and why I was able to do it for so many years. So, but yeah, to answer your question, there are things that like I'd have like a Mickey Mantle autographed baseball or a 93 SP Jeter, all kinds of things I'd run across. And I would display them like literally right here on my desk for maybe a week or two. And I'd say, do I really want that? No. I've accomplished it, so I'll sell it. And that's kind of how I felt. I felt like I had accomplished it, so it was time to go forward with something else instead.
Did you sell all those cards in your garage? You still have sitting on a bunch of them?
So, yeah, so it's interesting because a number of years ago, I actually did a deal with a dealer that he used to be like a show promoter and all kinds of other things. He has like a warehouse full of all these cards. And so the deal that we did is I would get several million cards from him and he would keep them until I had enough room. So I would pick up a couple 100,000 at a time, sell them, then come back for more. So I don't know exactly how much he has left of mine, but I believe there's probably about 4 million or so more.
Oh my
So there's a lot. There's a lot. We'll be busy for years to come, and it's a blast. And the great thing is, I'm considering is after I move my Canseco collection, I might actually rebuild the base version. Nothing over 10 cents or something like that, but just for fun, just to kind of see what I can, it'd be a nice little treasure hunt for me. And get excited about 1990 Donruss Canseco again. That's base and not the Aqueous or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, you've done some really good work with the customs from 1990 Donruss. You sent me one. I remember. I think it's really rad. I love that set, and that and Upper Deck. It kind of always bothered me that Frank Thomas wasn't included in those sets.
Yeah.
Would have been nice to see a rookie symbol in the 90 Upper Deck, first 30 cards or whatever, have Frank Thomas in that. But I think the romance associated with that thought is, 100% because he's not in the set.
Correct, yes.
If he's in the set, it'd be like, 90 tops, Frank Thomas base card.
It's a 50-cent card, so there you go. If it happened, yeah. But now we look at it, we're like, oh man, that would be great. That would be like hundreds of dollars or something. No, probably not.
Probably just be another $2 50-cent card, and just like everybody else, because it was in those overproduced years. Really cool stuff, man. And I think that's interesting to think about, that you have access to 4 million more cards to move. I mean, you're going to be dealing in cards probably for maybe even the rest of your life, right? Trying to move everything. I don't know how long it'll take you to move 4 million cards. I don't deal in that kind of bulk presently, so I think that's really fascinating.
It's fun. I really love it. There's a guy that used to come down from, I believe it was Kansas. His wife would let him rent a trailer, and every summer, he was a teacher. Every summer, like clockwork, he says, Tanner, I want 300,000 or 400,000 commons. Can I come over and pick some up this summer? So absolutely. So he would come over, drive out, his 12, 13, 14-hour trip, and we'd load him up, and he'd be on his way.
Wow. He'd drive a total of 28 hours round trip to get commons. I love it. It's so rad.
Yeah. So there would be some good things in there, but you wouldn't find any Babe Ruth rookies or Mike Trout rookies or anything like that in there.
What were the year spans for a lot of that stuff, that bulk that you ended up getting from the access to the bulk in your garage? What generally, what are we talking era-wise?
All 1952 tops. No, kidding.
All of it, the whole thing.
The whole thing. That's so. Yeah, you think that they actually were dumped in the ocean? No, they actually came in my garage.
They were dumped in your garage.
Yeah, they dumped in my garage. Which I thought about that also. How interesting would it be if those weren't dumped out? What would the mantle be valued at? But that's another story.
Less.
I think it'd be a lot less.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, to answer your question, I don't know. The majority is going to be junk wax, just like every collection you run into. It's going to be from the, 87 to 92 time period, but there's a lot of other mid-90s. There's various other early 80s. Sometimes you'll run into a 70s run. There are some good things. There's also quite a bit from 2000 on as well. But just like everything, the majority is going to be the junk wax era. So that's how it goes.
Totally. Funny story back in... I know we're a little off topic here, but hopefully the people that are watching can entertain some of this off topic dialogue. I can remember when I was in business school, and I was going through my whole collection of binders, and I was picking out, this is all non-Thomas stuff, by the way, picking out all the stuff I wanted to keep, and then I wanted to find a buyer or somebody to trade with everything else because I wanted to thin out my collection. And most of it was from 88 to 93, the junk wax years. And I remember taking all the binders to a local shop. And the guy, I open up my trunk, and it's all these binders, and he's going through one. He's like, man, everybody's got the same stuff. That's what he said to me. That's what he said out loud. And I was thinking to myself, gosh, I guess you're right.
Everybody was selling that stuff back then. There were gas stations and, barber shops. Everyone was slinging wax back then.
Yeah. I thought it was going to be a lot easier to move, but it took some work. I found a guy that was making team boxes and selling them for $15 each, and I unloaded everything I had onto him for 6 cards in his showcase. Oh. I think 40 or 50,000 cards went to him, and to me I got, a Ripken Fleer rookie and a 93 Topps Gold Jeter rookie, Randy Johnson minor league card, and then like 3 others that I thought were, of par that would make sense. So I came in with 6 top loaders, and I gave away a trunk load full of stuff. I thought it was a great deal.
Yeah, right?
I was like, oh, awesome. And I remember coming home from that deal and feeling just a slight bit of cognitive dissonance from that decision. Just for like a minute, I was like, did I do the right thing? I'm getting rid of my childhood, essentially, in that way. But then I was like, they're just cards. If I wanted to get them again, I could get them again. They're not rare. I mean, how rare is an 87 Fleer Kirby Puckett card? Yeah. It's like I can do it again if I wanted to. So that aside, I thought that was an interesting memory to talk about.
Yeah.
Moving on, though, what do you think will be the most difficult part of retirement?
I don't know. In the past, when I've thought about this stuff, it's there are a lot of things that would come to my mind that would be negative. Like I feel like part of me would almost feel like I would let the community down, because I've had so many people write to me saying, oh, you're such an inspiration. You're helping me continue collecting, or you got me back into collecting. So I almost feel like I wouldn't want to let people down. You know what I mean? Like for me, I've accomplished what I wanted to accomplish in the collection. So I'm good. So I'm good with stepping away. It is hard to let go of some of these really amazing pieces with fantastic stories. But to me, for my personality, for my collecting habits, I need to get rid of it all. I just do, because that's how I do things. I can't just, my addictive personality calls for me to step away and completely cut off all ties as far as the Canseco stuff goes. And aside from the base, so I want to have some base possibly, but actually, and I ended up getting this from a teacher that had sent me some stuff, which is pretty cool. So there's some base cards here. I'm not sure how they're looking on camera there.
Not bad.
But these are all, they're all from 2018 Top Series 2, right when I actually stopped collecting. And it's really funny how your whole perception of cards changed. A couple days before I got these, my thoughts were, okay, I get in 1 of 1. I'd get in and out of 5 or an out of 10. These are cool cards. In the box they go. And then I had the mindset of, I'm not going to have any more of these. And I got these cards. I go, these are beautiful. And they're worth 10 cents each or something. But it's like, yeah, maybe I need to do a binder with them. That's great, But yeah, I don't know. There's so much stuff that goes on my head with leaving the hobby from a super collector perspective. So I'll call myself a recovering super collector, if that makes sense. But for the most part, it's going to be it's a positive thing. Over the past 36 hours, I've literally had hundreds of people write in. It's been so great. I've enjoyed it a lot.
That's really cool, man. Yeah, I know that as collectors, I talk about this over the years with some friends and even my mother, that collecting becomes like an extension of our personalities, right? That I couldn't imagine my life without it. And I always talk about there are 3 things I gotta have personally: my guitar, my skateboard, and my baseball cards. Like those are the 3 things I gotta have to be happy. And so if I give up one of those things, how will I fill that? Like that third piece, like what's going to help me in place of card collecting? What would this is like the rhetoric, like the narrative. What would I do now to fill that time? Like I've been spending all this time researching and buying and selling and getting to know people in the hobby. In a way, you're sort of like letting go of a piece of your personality. How do you digest that?
So a lot of this kind of goes, I think you're absolutely right when you say that this is kind of be like an extension of your personality. For me, the hobby is really at the core of who I am. Mm-hmm. And the problem was for me, if I can just be as transparent as possible, I've said it before, it got to be kind of an addiction, like an obsession. And for me as well, part of the disconnect for me was thinking, man, I'm really spending a lot of time on me. You know what I mean? Like, it's about me collecting this, me getting this, me getting that. So my hope is, and I've gotten a little flack for bringing this into the whole conversation, before online with some other folks, but really what I want to do is I want to do what God wants me to do. And so a lot of what that means sometimes can be helping others and, glorifying God by telling others about him and that sort of thing. And just being a good dad and husband, so, and I hope I haven't been a bad dad or husband at all, but, I think I can do better. And I think that's where a lot of my time is going to be spent. And of course I'm going to be, still buying and selling cards, making custom cards and writing. So believe me, my dance card's going to be full as far as the hobby goes still. But I want to make sure it's not as me focused going forward, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. Like I said, I respect your decision to do what you feel is best in your life, because we're all kind of on this path together, but we're doing it in our own way, and so we have to do it the way we feel is best for us as unique individuals. And so I completely respect your decision and your stance and your perception on how it's impacted your life and how you can improve in other areas. I really, really think that's great. And it's kind of sad to hear that you've gotten some flack for that, actually, but everybody's got their own, stance, and you kind of have to respect whatever everybody else thinks, but also ultimately not let it get to you, and just do you the best way you can, So I really respect that, man. I think that's it's really admirable, truly.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Another question, if you don't mind here: under what circumstances, if any, would you ever consider a comeback?
I wouldn't. I don't think I would, because I feel like I've kind of reached the pinnacle, of this whole thing. I don't like, if I come back, it would be for going into maybe not so much the pinnacle. And the way that I do things, the way I do life, is I try to be the best at everything. And so I was never necessarily gunning for like number one as far as the position goes. It was completely fueled by passion, and I just happened to get there, kind of thing. But with that said, going forward, I don't know. I don't think I could necessarily handle it and not try to be the best again. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I guess probably the only way possible that I could see that happening is if Aaron says, "Man, Tanner, I've had a horrible, 5-10 years down the road, and hopefully this will never happen, but Tanner, I need money, man. I need to sell my complete collection. What do you give me?" And that's like a 1 in a bazillion shot. I hope he never has to deal with that. But that's the only way that I could see something like that happen for me again, where I'm just, and my personality kind of has to change a little bit as well, because I have to make sure that I don't take it on as like an addictive kind of thing again, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess in that capacity, would you, if let's hope it doesn't happen, but let's say for the sake of conversation, you buy Aaron's collection, would you just process it through and sell it and get into the hands of other collectors like you do your own collection presently?
You mean if I were to buy it years down the road to collect again? Or?
Yeah, would you treat it as like I'm back in the hobby, or would you treat it as I now have a collection to sell because I'm not a collector anymore?
Well, I will say this. The only way I could probably buy something of that magnitude is if I were to want to collect again. But because I don't, the way I see it, like with any collection I get from here on out, I'm sure I'll buy several collections out. I'm going to sell them. I'm going to sell everything, because that's just how I do. I don't want to necessarily get into a super collecting situation again. I actually kind of dabbled a little bit in wax recently as well. You might have seen that before.
Oh yeah.
I love it. And the thing is like whenever I got into it, I said, okay, well, I want to get everything from 1980 to 1993, and they all have to be from a sealed case and this, that, and the other. And so I got a 93 Finest box, I got a 93 SP box, and I started thinking, what was I doing? What am I doing? Like I don't even have like a childhood connection to some of these cards. It was just to fill this time period. And so I look at this like really expensive 93 SP box. Okay, it's nice, but it's kind of dull. I'll show you, because I have it right here. It's pretty cool. It's a neat box. But man, the 1991 Topps box is so much cooler. It's bright red, and I love those colors and everything. So, and plus, it's a little bit cheaper than the 93 SP box.
A little bit, just a little bit.
Just a tad.
Yeah, those 93 SP boxes sealed like you have, that's a great investment, I think. because of, Jeter Hall of Fame, and then they're just going to continue to rise. The foil borders. I mean, that box is a very significant box, much like the '93 Finest box that you bought, which I assume is also sealed.
Well, I'll show you. I've got it right here.
So it's so pretty. I love it. Look at that. Wow. And Canseco's on the front.
And Canseco's on the front. Now he's got 93 on the chest there, but yeah, no doubt it's Canseco. And so the thing is the whole reason for me to get into wax was to just for nostalgic purposes. So going to the baseball card shop every Saturday morning and looking at the 87 Fleer packs I couldn't afford because they're $7 a pack, and the $85 the same thing, but the 91 tops and the 88 score, and I loved those so much. And so I even picked up some, like I've got a sealed case box of 1980 tops. I never opened a single pack of that, but I remember seeing those things on the shelf going, man, I wish I could have some of that. And I didn't really have that with the 93 Finest recipe because it was way up there. Yeah. I never even thought about considering buying a pack.
Yeah, I was the same way. When I got in the hobby in 1988, I could only afford whatever was the cheapest, like 50-cent packs I could find, and the 88 score and 88 Donruss, 88 tops. Those were what I was buying, 88 Fleer, which I really didn't buy 88 Fleer until later because I felt like back then it was kind of one of those like boutique products. It had Glavin's rookie in it, and so I like the 88 Fleer set myself because the color design is really cool with the white and the blue and the red stripes. Yeah, it's a classic. Here. Such a great. I love that. That's great that you bought that because it's such a great box. What a cool box. It's beautiful,
right?
So beautiful, so pretty. It's such a great. It's colorful. It's red, white, and blue. It's just really cool. What a great box to have.
And it's cheap. So there's also. I want to show you something else here.
Yeah, sure.
I was thinking about getting into like. Well, Tanner, do you want to do just the wax, or what about the cellos and the racks and all that?
Oh, geez.
So, as a disclaimer here, I think I'm going to scale back, and if I stay in this, I'm just going to do wax, not the cellos or racks. But I did get a couple. So here's what the cello box looks like.
Oh, look at that! It's very similar, but it's got the red theme to it instead of the blue one. That's really cool. It's much thicker too, no?
Yeah, it's a little bit thicker.
A
little bit thicker, wow. And I don't know why. Like for me personally. When I see 88 Fleer, I think, oh, it's cool. But I feel like so many people in the hobby don't give enough credit for the boxes.
I love the boxes.
And so what I did was I went to BBC Exchange, and there's other collectors as well. I got them all from a sealed case.
Okay.
I sound kind of like an advertisement for BBC, but
no, I mean Steve Hart, he authenticates the box and then seals it. So I give a lot of credit to him in doing that because I think he's the only one that does that.
He's a nice guy too. I've enjoyed talking to him. So.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
But I love the colors.
Are you displaying them on a shelf, like kind of like them sort of like fanned out, or how you got them displayed?
Well, let me show you a little bit here. I'm going to warn you real quick, okay? It is crazy messy in here. So
I'm sure.
Because like I've got packages going and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, so
yeah.
Here's what I have right behind.
Oh, nice. Yeah, there you go.
So it's 80, 81, 82, and 84, I think, at the bottom there. And then you see the other boxes there.
Okay, yeah, you got quite a few of them. Was that 89 Upper Deck? Do I see that there?
Yeah, this right here, low number.
Uh-huh.
And then 92 Bowman to the left of it. There's actually, I'm going to show you something here as well, which is pretty cool. I never really bought any of this stuff as a kid, but here's the 85 Donruss box.
Oh yeah, that's a classic.
Which is cool.
But look at this classic box. I never bought any 85. Wait, what do you got there?
Yeah, so this is 85 Leaf.
Oh, you got the 85 Leaf box too. Wow.
Yeah. Look at the difference.
Thinner, yeah. So I think the packs have lesser cards in the Leaf box. Is that right?
I would say so. I don't know. I think that's the case, but they're a big difference. I mean, it's so America of us to have like a bigger box than Canada or something, right? I mean, it's so funny.
Yeah, I don't know what the requirements were for that. Either it was, I don't think it's less packs, but it's less cards per pack. I think that's what it was. But because I opened a pack of 86 Leaf once, and I remember thinking how less full it seemed, but I can't back that up with certainty without doing a little bit of research. I think it's really cool that you picked up both versions. That's really nice.
Yeah, I love it. And the problem is again, I feel like some of these tendencies have been coming back though. Like I can't just get the 85 Donruss. I have to get the Leaf one. I can't just get the wax. I have to get the Cell and the Rack. So I'm really, really trying to, if I stay in with the wax, and believe me, this is like next after next after next, after I deal with the Canseco stuff. But if I'm doing wax, I want to keep it simple, just regular wax. But then I look at that 88 Fleer Solo box and I'm like, man, that looks so cool with the red. Oh, what a neat variation. So I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing.
I have myself thought about going into wax too, but I've constantly stopped myself when I think about it because I don't have the space, and I'd rather put the money toward singles. But I have a sealed box of 97 Pinnacle Certified, which is a rare box. And,
yeah.
I got that in 2016 as like a Christmas gift for myself. So and then I have 2 boxes of 96 Pinnacle sealed. But I think they're retail because they have the open faces. You might remember that those open faces are more like a retail thing, and then the hobby has actually the front cover on them. And then just a couple other miscellaneous things. But I like the concept of seeing like a visual of what it would look like in a card shop, and it's in my office or something. And I think that's really kind of comforting to me.
Yeah, yeah, I click with that.
Yeah, so the boxes themselves, I keep my raw boxes and I have them displayed on a shelf. It's just they're out of the way, but they look nice. That's another reason why I like the appearance of boxes. I think they're really cool.
Yeah, well, and so for me also getting into this, I thought maybe I'll just get some junk boxes for $5 each or whatever. But then as I started going more into it, the BBC authenticated boxes with from the sealed case, I like that idea as well because sometimes these hits would be sequentially numbered inside the cards or whatever, or inside the packs. And so people would say, okay, well, I'll dig 4 packs down on the upper left, get the Griffey, and fill it with another pack, and that's it. So, and you can't really do that if it's from a sealed case. So that was important to me, but also the box condition was hugely important to me. I wanted to make sure it was very nice and crisp, and the corners were sharp, and there's no paper loss. That was a big deal to me also.
Yeah, you mentioned the 89 Upper Deck, knowing where the packs, which packs hold the certain cards. I think 86 Fleer Basketball was the same way with Jordan. You always knew which pack had the Jordan. Don't quote me on that. That's heard that in Campfire Talk. But I can remember 2010, a friend of mine had bought a box of 89 Upper Deck, and we opened it, and there wasn't a single star in the entire box. And I was saying to myself, someone must have searched this and replaced them with miscellaneous packs. Like, there's no way you can go through an entire box not get a single star. There wasn't even a Greg Jeffries, for crying out loud. Like, there was nothing.
Witchcraft, I'll tell you.
Give me a Sandy Alomar Jr. or something. Show me that there's a heartbeat here, and there was just nothing. And I remember thinking, man, if I ever buy a box of this, it's got to be sealed.
Yep.
And so, yeah, Steve Hart has a nice operation over there at BBC Exchange. I really respect what he's got going on, and I like that he's authenticating boxes because it presents like a degree of trust, confidence that I know I'm getting something that's untampered with, and I like that. I think it's cool.
Yes.
Tanner, thanks for sitting down and talking with me about your kind of your journey a little bit and sort of like how you're digesting it process-wise, mentally, also physically from your office there. It looks like you got a lot going on. I see a lot of baseball bats in the back there. Are those going to be sold too?
Yeah, so I actually ended up buying a lot of 37 bats, and most of them are game used. I picked them up probably a couple months ago just to resell, So they're going to. There's nothing like really big. There's no Mickey Mantle game used bats or anything like that, but there's like Felix Jose or Junior Ortiz, those guys. So I figured I could try and make a few bucks off of them. Okay. And for the longest time, they're actually sitting in the middle of my office here. So every time in the morning when I come in here, I'd have to do some kind of like a 2-step jump just to get to the desk because they're all out there. But now the majority of them are in the garage, so where they should be until they're sold.
Okay. And now is that kind of taking a back seat, or you working the first priority is to move the Canseco stuff and then worry about everything else?
Well, I'm not really in a hurry to move anything aside from the fact that I would like my office to be a little cleaner. Mm-hmm. So the bats were the bats were a bit more of a pressing thing just because of the space. But when they moved to the garage, I'm like, okay, well, I don't really have to worry about them as much anymore.
Right.
So I just posted them on Craigslist, and I have some on eBay, and so I've had a couple folks come over and pick up a bat here and there. So it's been fine, and I have no problems with those staying here for a while as long as they're just out of my way.
Totally.
So, but yeah, the Canseco stuff, I would like to move those sooner than later, just to kind of. I'd rather it be ripped off like a Band-Aid than just linger. But I have a feeling it'll probably take a year or so to move everything, and that's okay. I mean, I'm not going anywhere. It's fine to do that, but it's very time consuming. It's very time consuming. I mean, like I said, I've moved so much stuff yesterday, but it was just a drop in the bucket, and I've got so many packages to go out today. But that's okay. That's kind of what I signed up for here.
Yeah, for those of you who are watching and this is all news to you, you can go to Tanner's website at tanmanbaseballfan.com, and you can actually, if you really want to go just to see his collection that he has available, cansecocollector.com, and you can see everything he's got that is for sale.
So also, just to give everybody a heads up, two things. Number one, I will hopefully be coming out with a book very soon about my collecting journey. So keep an eye out on that. Number two, I was actually contacted by a news anchor early this morning. So I might be on the news here in the Houston area pretty soon as well.
Wow, really cool, man. Good for you.
Yeah.
How did that transpire? How did they find you in that way? What was did they tell you the hook? Like, what was the thing?
Well, the funny thing is I actually had him out here before. Oh. He had been a news anchor in Pennsylvania. He moved down here to Houston. I don't remember. It's KHOU or KPRC. It's one of the main ones here. But anyways, he had come down and he reached out to me back then about my custom work. He said, Tanner, I love this stuff. I'd love to do a spot on you. And so I go, okay, sure. Yeah, I'd love it. So he and his camera guy came over here, and we set up the office with the lights and did all these little demos and everything, which is really cool. And he said, I'm not really sure if I should be going with like a news piece of you on custom cards or on your Canseco collection. I feel like the custom cards are a little more interesting, so we'll go with that. For some reason or another, it didn't get approved to go through, which is fine. Because I just loved the experience. It was really cool. It was fun. But he came back around, and this morning he said, "Hey, okay, so let me know when the book's out. I think this is a good news piece."
Awesome. Good for you, man. I remember when I published my book, I was on the news too locally, and then I was in a magazine, and I did like a book signing, and so it's a nice little process that happens when you publish something. Because I mean, writing a book is a lot of work. Not everybody does it. In fact, the statistic that I'm aware of is that 2% of people write books, and then 2% of that 2% publish their books. So it's a very, very, very small group of us, right? Like, we're just a small group of people, but I'm a huge fan of writing, so I totally get what you're going through, and I think it's great, and I look forward to reading the product.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the encouragement. I've been thinking about possibly looking for a publisher. I just don't know if there's going to be enough traction for something like that for collecting. So it's probably going to be a self-published deal, I'd imagine.
There's nothing wrong with that. You get to manage the entire marketing process, and your profits per unit are larger than they would be for any house.
Yeah,
which is a good thing.
And really, to be honest with you, I mean, I actually talked to a friend about this last night. If the number one thing necessarily won't be the money that I get off of it. I don't even know if there's going to be much money that I can generate off of it. If everybody comes back to me and says, "Man, Tanner, I loved it. I'm so happy that you wrote this. I read it." That would be a win for me, even if I didn't make any money off of it. I'll try to do it through Amazon. I'm sure I'll sell it for $10-15, whatever books go for. But the main win for me is if I can get some good feedback off of it.
Oh, I'm confident that you will. If nothing else, I'll give you really good feedback.
Well, thank you. Okay, that's it. I'm going to write it then.
I think that you have a great reputation in the hobby, in the market. Most people, it seems like, that I talk to are aware of you. It seems like, and you've always been very positive, which is another draw. I like your attitude toward the hobby is very passionate and positive. I've always appreciated that, but I'm drawn to that type of person. I like to be around people that are positive and happy and excited. I feel like there's more value to gain around people like that. and in my perspective, I feel I'm enriched in a way, and when I'm enriched, I feel like I had a good day, you know, and that's valuable to me. And so that's why, that's a big reason why I think what you've done, your personal brand is a very robust one and a very attractive one in that way. Like that's why I think, you know, so many people are attracted to you because, you know, you're accessible, you're interesting, you made yourself entertaining. I always thought that was cool. There's a big entertainment part of who you are that I've always liked. It's really rad. So I guess I want you to just feel that, like, you're respected well in the hobby from my understanding. And I think that's really cool what you're doing and selling and writing a book. I think that's really, really excellent. You know, Tanner, something I always noticed about the way you've marketed yourself online is you had this unique way to draw traction to get eyeballs onto you and also onto what you collect. And I've always liked that about that, because I look for those things out and about just in business. I would look for ways to kind of set yourself apart from kind of the noise that exists on the major highway of marketing. And I noticed that about you in the sports card niche, that you would create these really interesting graphics that are entertaining and they're fun, and then you would tell people exactly what you're looking for. Hey, I'm looking for the 96 Select Certified Mirror Gold Canseco, and you'd kind of like showcase it on a graphic. And the background was, I think, showed a bunch of Canseco cards, but they're all like dimmed out. And so the front ground was the focus on the card itself. And, you know, in bold lettering, you would say, "Here's what I'm looking for. Let me know." You had one with the Frozen lady. You had mentioned that you were looking for that you let it go if you have all rare Cansecos. Let it go. I thought that was really smart. Another one that popped out to me recently was when I was reading your article, and you had the one with Mike Tyson's Punch Out. That scene. I thought that was very, very smart. Something else going back to it too again was your GIF file of you as a Simpsons character, but you were winking and smiling. I thought that was just so rad and just fun and just really cool. And back when I learned about you years ago, it was still kind of new to me, but as I kind of got to know you as a collector, I really appreciated seeing those things, because, you know, it kind of like it's kind of like a break from all the like the standard posts we see everywhere online, you know, and I liked seeing the cool graphics. And from someone who likes design myself, I like to see that stuff, even though I'm not a candidate to help you accommodate your collecting goals. I liked seeing that you were after that in such a passionate way. What are some of the graphics that stood out to you that you remember being either A, really fun to make, B, you know, that maybe brought the best result and most traction, or C, you just thought were just interesting, just like, oh, that's a cool idea, or even D, another one, we had an idea for a graphic but you never made it. I know that's a lot to digest, so just kind of go casual on it.
Sure, no problem. So yeah, the whole thing is really just kind of I just have like this overabundance of passion, you know, and so believe it or not, there's a lot of people that don't like that passion, you know, so they think that I'm way over the top and everything. Oh, that Tanner guy, he's so annoying. He's, you know, spouting off about Canseco cards all over the place, or his custom cards, or his writing, or his buying. It happens all the time, and so I try to just, you know, not worry about what they're saying, because they're in the very minority. But doing these graphics were so fun. I just really enjoy doing them. I remember the Simpsons one whenever I made a GIF that was of me smiling and winking and all that stuff, and putting it on the on my website. And it was a Saturday morning, I believe. And I don't think I really even knew how to do that, so I kind of learned how to actually make him wink and smile. And I just remember like almost audibly laughing at my computer. I'm like, I made him wink, yeah. And so my wife and son are like, what are you hollering about in here? I was like, take a look, I'm winking at people, and all that. So they're used to that sort of thing. But yeah, the whole Let It Go thing for Frozen and all that too. I mean, I enjoy those. And a lot of times whenever I'm just looking online, I'll get inspiration from basically everywhere. And cardboard is like always on my mind. You know, it's, at least it was, you know, it's always going to be a part of me for sure. But if I see something online, I'll go, man, that's, I think I can twist that around. Like there's one thing on Facebook, for instance, which is kind of funny. And I'll give you two stories. I'm not going to give out any names here because I don't want to embarrass anybody or make anybody look bad. But there was on Facebook, there are people that they'll post something like their PayPal account says, $500, looking for high-end cards. Let me know what you have. Every now and then, of course, you'll have the guys that have like several $100s that they're holding, with a picture like, I've got money, sell to me or whatever, which I always thought was kind of funny. So what I did was I did a PayPal spoof. Let me know of the Canseco cards that you have. And I said my balance was like $1,000,033, buying all high-end Canseco cards. And everyone's like, oh, that's hilarious, this, that, and the other. And I got messages, hey, bro, do you really have $1,000,033? Like, no. Like, oh, well, how'd you do that graphic? I said, I just made the graphic up. Another one was on Twitter, and I got somebody really upset about this. On Twitter, it said something like, it showed Donald Trump saying, if anybody has any Canseco cards, let Tanner know at tanmanbaseballfan@gmail.com. And Barack Obama, replied, for once, Donald, we can finally agree on something. tanmanbaseballfan@gmail.com and cansecocollector.com. Everybody loved it except for a couple, and they're like, I call BS on this. There's no way these guys did that. I'm like, well, of course they didn't. They have no clue who I am. But it was fun, though. It gets people talking.
Yeah, you also have one that was from Facebook, and you're in a relationship with baseball cards.
Yes.
Yeah, I know that you made that one because I just think that these kinds of things are really interesting. That you have like it's really interesting mind the way you look at the market, and I can really respect that. I think that's really cool to see it in like a kind of a different way. I went to when I used to live in LA, I went to LACMA, the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, and they had a Tim Burton exhibit, and I got to see the actual suit that was used in Edward Scissorhands and like his original art from when he was in grade school, and
cool.
It was really interesting stuff. And I was thinking about all his art. He had one piece of like he drew a man and a woman chewing on each other's arms, and he said he drew this out, and the title was enjoying each other. And to me, I was thinking to myself, man, what a cool way to think about things,
Yeah.
and such a very unique, like, completely out of the scope of the norm, like just thinking about things in such a just off the cuff way, and I really, really respected that. And in a strange way, when I saw you post things online that were related to that frame of mind, it reminded me of my time at the Tim Burton exhibit. That it's like the same kind of like thinking about things in this very unique, interesting way that draws traffic, draws eyeballs, and people can think differently about something. And I always liked those graphics and those things that you produce, knowing they were all made up, like you created them, but you happen to use like the right fonts and the right color tones, and I mean you did it really tastefully and you did it well. I can understand how some people would get upset about the every time you bring up politics, someone's going to bark at you. But I thought it was very interesting that you were able to think about something in such a way that would allow you to produce, I guess, more eyeballs on what it is you're looking for, and it helped you grow your collection. A lot of guys will flaunt money and say, I have money, let me buy up anything you have. But you took it into like kind of like an entertainment showcase in a way, like improv in sort of a way, but you tied it into cards, and I always appreciated that.
Well, when it comes to this hobby, I think a lot of people see it as one-dimensional. For me, I see it as like seven-dimensional. I mean, there's so many facets to this hobby that's so fascinating to me, and we can express ourselves in so many different ways. I even saw this one guy. He said that he was collecting baseball cards that were just base or whatever of guys that had gold crosses, for jewelry on the cards. I thought that was cool, because like he had a focus. Nobody else has that focus, right? It's just him. But he decided to pursue that, and I thought that was so neat because it's something different than, okay, I'm going to go after all the Mike Trout cards or something, But there was this one that was really interesting. It was fun for me, at least. A couple months ago, I think it was. This guy comes online and he gives me like this wildest suggestion of making a custom card. He said it should be of Rob Nen wearing a top hat, skiing down the Empire State Building. he's eating a hot dog and he's got an alligator under his arm, and he just continually went down and down that hill like a paragraph. Well, I made it. I did every single thing that he said, and I posted on Twitter, and Rob Nin wrote me and goes, "Oh my gosh, this is awesome. I have to have it." I love that stuff. It's enjoyable to me.
That's really rad. Yeah, I speaking of the Gold Cross thing, I met somebody at a card show probably back in '07, I would say, at a mall show. You know, this was a pretty cool show. A lot of vendors that came from out of state. It was fun. One lady's a mom. She's like, you know, somewhat middle-aged, maybe mid-40s, and she was going through cards and kind of giggling, and I was like, what are you giggling about? I look over, I was like, she's like, well, look at this pitcher's face. He looks like he's like about to lose it, you know, because when they throw, they're like, ah. She's like, oh, I collect the cards with the pitchers with their gnarled faces.
Oh, okay.
And I thought that was really interesting. I was like, man, what an interesting way to think about collecting. Like you're taking this incredibly niche market and you're making it even harder. Like you're making it even rarer to find things. Like how do you search for that online is what I think about. How do I search for gnarled face pitchers online? Like it's probably rare that I'll come up with any cards that will show that with those keywords. Same with the Gold Cross. Like if I type in Gold Cross baseball card, what's going to come up, you know? And so it makes it more fun because it's hard. And when something's challenging, it's more rewarding when you do come across something. So I thought that from like a order of operations standpoint, that was very interesting to me. So that was really cool. And I like tying it back into the graphics piece. It was fun to watch the stuff that you had produced, and it was cool to see the results. And I always think like, man, I hope he was able to get some leads from these things. Like that's what I always thought. Like I hope these are producing results for you. And I'm, you know, as a question, like of the graphics, was one more successful than another?
Well, you know, it's kind of funny is I wish I could have some sort of metrics to show what performed better than others. Certainly on Twitter, you could see, okay, what has more likes or shares or whatever. I don't know if there were many, if not any, that tangibly helped me get the specific card that I was looking for. However, indirectly, I think that, you know, my goal was at least not just to grab that card, but just to keep my name in front of people's eyes. And that way, if they ever ran into a Canseco card, they would tell me about it. And that really helped tons for me, at least. Just so if I'm looking for a 96 mirror gold and I said, hey, I'll do a $50 finder's fee or something like that, it was okay if I didn't find that card. I never did, by the way, which is okay. But I never found that card, and nobody ever, you know, came out to me with that card. But it kept me in their heads to go, oh, well, I did see this other one Canseco, so I could go to Tanner and see if he wants to get this instead.
So that's like the market listening piece that you know, if you can get yourself out there and be known in some way, in some circle, in some capacity, you can make it, you can be like on people's thought when they come across something they think you might like. I think you did that really well in social. I think that's where you excelled in a major capacity, was you were able to keep yourself on people's minds when they came across rare Cansecos, which I think is, you know, it probably is a big reason why you were able to field so many offers for stuff over the years. Would you agree?
Mm. Oh yeah, that was a big deal. A big part of it is, and we were talking a little bit offline about this, I think, was you know, unofficially, I've not purchased another Canseco card for about 3 weeks now or whatever. So I'm like 3 weeks cardboard sober, you know. And but ever since that, I've had probably offers for 50 or 60 different Canseco cards, whether it be somebody trying to sell it to me or them just saying, hey, take a look at what was pulled. That was always so fantastic to have people, you know, tag me on things all the time. I really enjoyed that because it's like people actually know me and they like me. So it kind of like a little bit of a validation each time somebody did that. Like, hey, they like me. It's cool. But yeah, the graphics really helped a lot, I think. I really do. And I remember even the failures, you know, you can use success through the failures. And so one specific time I remember is a small card. It was a 2000 Upper Deck Ovation, I think, and fellow super collector Curtis actually bought it, I believe, online when I was sleeping. So what did I do? Well, I made a graphic. I want this card, and I put it up there. Well, another collector came online and grabbed the picture of that card that I missed out and did another banner that said "While you were sleeping" at the top. Oh, I died! It was hilarious. I love that. And that was Anthony. Anthony did that. He's a big Gary Carter collector. And it's a lot of camaraderie with other super collectors as well. It's been fun to do that, but keeping the hobby fun and laughing at your failures even a lot of times really helps.
Yeah, that's a big piece. I always think that like a failure is only a failure if you're not learning anything from it.
Yes.
And in that capacity, failing is just as valuable as succeeding. And so they're like learning experiences, right? And I mean, I don't think you failed by falling asleep by any means. You know?
I slept.
And maybe we should not give up collecting and just give up sleeping so we can collect it for longer hours, right? That's the thing.
Exactly. We got caffeine, you know?
Right. So I think about it in terms of like, I accepted long ago I couldn't get all the Frank Thomas cards. There's just no possible way. But I can try to pursue specific examples. And, if once I check those off, I add a few more on and then check those off. Just keep that going over time. And that helped me maintain, stay passionate without going completely broke, right? Like you kind of just you make it like it's a lifestyle that doesn't consume every other part of your life. Does that make sense? And I know
Sure.
us passionate super collectors, I think a lot of us have experienced at least some amount of time where it may have consumed our lives for a time. Like it overtook all the time that we could have spent doing other things. And I think a lot of us can relate to that. Maybe not all of us, but I think a lot of us can. So I know that I've had a block of time where I pursued the hobby in such a hard way that I was having packages come in like 10, 15 a day. It was spending. I know, isn't it great?
I love it.
And you're going through. You have like stacks of cards, but for guys like you and I who have our collections online archived, to process all that is a lot of work day to day. So we don't get to it until maybe a month later, and by that time we've got like hundreds of cards to go through, and that takes days itself. And as that's happening, I'm getting 15 packages from that too. Nice. So it turns into this like all time consuming thing. Meanwhile, like our girlfriends or our friends or our families, they don't get to spend time with us because we're all consumed with this one thing. And I know that there comes a time, at least, I don't know if you can relate to this. In my mind, there was a time where I thought like, gosh, am I always going to be this strapped for cash in other areas in my life? Like, am I always going to be this strapped for time in other areas of my life, like resources? Am I always going to be this like low on resources throughout my life? That's what I started to think about. And I was like, I would like to get to a place where I can still enjoy the hobby, but I can also enjoy everything else, the peripheral of my life that's not just the hobby.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel that way?
Yeah, so actually I'm glad that you brought up some of this because there are a few things that people have asked me about or have kind of assumed that I'd probably like to clear up anyways while I'm here with you. Number one, a lot of people, kind of took my stepping away as burnout, and it's not burnout. I love it. I would still be going at it if I felt like it was okay for me to do, but it's not. I feel like God is telling me to move on, close this chapter, and and so that's kind of what makes it okay for me to go forward, to something else. But yeah, so definitely not burnout because I still love it and everything. Also, another thing is it never really took away from family time or anything. It was always my activities kind of happened here in the office during work hours for the most part, which is good. I learned early on, when dad's off of work, it's family time at that point until everybody goes to bed. Now, if the family goes to bed and dad's still up, that's a different story. Then I can do all my cards and everything again. But I'm fortunate to have a job where I'm at home and I'm in my office, 9 to 5. Except for the lunch hour, and so I could do cardboard stuff while I'm waiting on, some of my programmers doing other projects and dealing with clients. So, but yeah, it's definitely not something like this hobby is not like just a one-track deal. There's so many different facets of it, and people can enjoy the hobby without having to spend much time or money in it at all.
Yeah, truly. I mean, I think that if you're a collector, if you're in the hobby in any capacity, you're going to be in a situation where you can find a way to enjoy it, even on a dime. Right?
Yes.
And so, yeah, I don't think that what you're doing is burnout. I think that what you're doing is just moving on to another space, another time, another chapter, and that's very healthy. Good stuff. I'm glad we got to talk about that. I think that's a good point to touch upon, and I'm also glad we got to talk about the graphics piece, because that's a really also very entertaining piece for me. I always got a kick out of that stuff. So thanks again, Tanner, for sitting down with me and chatting about those two pieces. Sure. Really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah.
Do you have any final thoughts you want to share?
Probably the last thing, just for all of your viewers out there that know me and that have helped me out, thank you so much. True, like, I couldn't have done all this stuff without you guys, so I certainly appreciate it, and you, Patrick, as well. I mean, it's been great to be able to get to know you, and I kind of feel like this is almost like a farewell, but it's not, because I'm not really going anywhere. Right. I'm just cutting off a little part of the hobby for myself, but because it is such a big thing, I'm so grateful for everybody out there that's reached out to me. It's been great to hear from people, especially over the past couple of days. It's been fantastic. So thank you, everybody.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome stuff. You can catch Tanner on Twitter at TanmanBBFan. And like I said earlier, you can visit his website at tanmanbaseballfan.com. And if you want to see his collection, what he's got for sale with his Canseco collection, go to cansecocollector.com. Thank you so much, Tanner. Really appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me and us kind of just to, have a casual dialogue. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I enjoyed it.
Awesome. Thank you for tuning in to Radicards.com. I'm your host, Patrick Greeno. Thanks again, Tanner Jones. And until next time, enjoy collecting. If you like this content, please subscribe. Thank you. Enjoy collecting.